I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for November 5th, 2012. If you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Here.
Alderwoman Manister.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Toohey.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Present.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Harper. And Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda for the regular Board of Alderman meeting for November 5th, 2012. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda.
Request to amend the agenda.
Okay.
Under Bill 5701, Mr. Harper, since he could not be here this evening, has requested that we postpone action on that bill. So could I move to remove this from the agenda, please?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of removing Bill 5701 from the agenda?
Are you
Aye.
going to do roll call?
Huh? Do you want to do a roll call? Okay. If we have a roll call, please.
I have additional, aside from his request, which I would hope that we would honor, we can't move forward with the bill because I've asked questions regarding the status of the current employee handbook, and that's not been, my questions have not been answered. I have a 2007 employee handbook, and I have the minutes where the handbook was so we can't move forward on it because the employee handbook that we're talking about amending is in question.
Okay. Roll call.
Alderwoman Saunders.
What is the roll call regarding?
To place this on hold.
On hold, okay. Yes.
To remove it.
Or to remove it from the agenda.
Yeah.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
No.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Okay. Now if I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved, Your Honor.
And second? Second. Motion is made by Alderman Leahy, second by Alderman Nguyen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, consideration approval of the minutes. The first one is from our October 1st meeting, 2012. Any changes to the minutes?
I have one correction. Octavia did an excellent job, and this one is important to me. So page 5, the 6th paragraph, beginning with Alderman Toohey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th line, looking at the budget, and this is the first year we amended the budget. And that's it.
I'm sorry, what was the change?
To add, and this is the first year we amended the budget.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderwoman Saunders. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, the minutes from the October 15th meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Leahy, second by Alderwoman Manister.
I have an amendment.
What?
I have an amendment.
Okay.
Page 17, prior to adjournment, I'd like Keith Robertson's remarked, "What is the point of this? Geez, I'm getting ready to walk out of here. This is ridiculous. Can we go home?" As I'm speaking.
Okay, page 17.
I'm not sure, are you adding these
You wanted to add
comments?
that?
Yes, those were added. Those were the comments said. At the end, as I'm speaking, it's on the tape. It is on the tape. At the end, after page 17, Leahy replied that he raised the issue of why he thought should stay in the public session and board voted not to support it. And as I'm speaking and asking you, Alderman Robertson is making these comments. He's verbally abused me at a Public Works meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
that we
We'll
have no
add
tape.
we'll add the comments. Do you want to restate those?
His comments were, what is the point of this? Geez, I'm getting ready to walk out of here. This is ridiculous. Can we go home?
Okay. Octavia, do you have those? Okay. We had a first and a second. If you would take back your first and second to approve the minutes, please.
Oh, that,
And
Take
second.
it back.
Now, if I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Motion is made by Alderwoman Saunders, second by Alderwoman Manister to approve the minutes as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Opposed.
Thank you. Public hearing, there are none this evening. Bids, we have one. City Administrator?
Yes. The City of Brentwood budgets for recycle bins and carts. Oh, excuse me. The City of Brentwood budgets for recycle bins and carts for new residents and the replacement of old and broken carts. We solicited bids for these two items and had two firms respond. Cascade Engineering, $40.25 each, and a delivery cost of $760. And Rarig Pacific Company, $42 each, and a delivery cost of $895. Total pieces that will be purchased is 144. The Department and Public Works Committee recommends that the bid be awarded to Cascade Engineering.
This was a budgeted item for this year,
Yes.
right? Any questions? Alderman Kramer?
Yes, sir. Just a quick question. Bola, we've done business with one of these companies before, or no?
Jim?
Both of them? And they supplied the same carts before, each individual contracts?
Carts are bids.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just have a question about the bid process. These bids were approved or discussed at Public Works meeting, and we moved it forward to this. In the past, I know they opened the bids at the meetings, and I'm not certain whether that's necessary or what the process, but I know it was done by Chris Seemayer, and I'm just not sure that I just am curious, that's all.
Well, normally we wouldn't open bids at a meeting. Usually for specific projects, there's a time for the bid letting, which would mean they would, normally it's 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So if the bids are due on the 15th by 10 o'clock, because a lot of times, depending on what a project is, and this can be any item that the city's putting out to bid, a lot of people wait till the very last minute. They'll bring it in right before 10 o'clock. And then they would come in here in a public setting. We usually have staff there to witness, and they would open the bids or read the bids out loud at that time, all at one time.
Okay. Someone had just told me that Chris had done it in the past at the meeting and asked about it, and I'm just inquiring.
No,
Your Honor,
not that I'm aware of.
my recollection is that the bids were announced at the meeting, but I don't think I've ever seen them open them at the meeting.
No, I don't think so. No. Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the recommendation of Public Works Committee?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second. Motion was made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Nguyen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, hearing of any matter of public interest upon any person present. If anybody would like to address the Board of Aldermen, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Julie Pozo. I live in St. Clair. In regard to the last Ways and Means Committee meeting, I would like to state my dismay at the disrespect shown to Chief DeSpennet. Chief DeSpennet had stated in prior meetings that Brentwood has seen increased crime due to our location and retail development. Because of this, Chief DeSpennet was put in a request for 3 additional police officers. Chief Jury put in a request for a new fire truck, and when questioned by the board, was treated with respect and his professional opinion was heeded. That same respect was not shown Chief DeSpennet at the Ways and Means Committee meeting. As a spectator at that meeting, I felt quite embarrassed that one of our elected officials would treat an employee that way, much less Chief DeSpennet. Some of your comments, Alderman Kramer, alluded you knew better than the chief what he needed. In the 2013 Legislative Department mission statement, the number 2 objective is, and I quote, to treat city employees with respect, recognize their special talents and training, and listen to their advice. I did not witness this as this objective at the Ways and Means Committee meeting. At the October 1st Board of Alderman meeting, in my comments, I stated that protecting the residents and visitors of Brentwood should be the city's #1 priority. If crime continues to increase, families will not want to live or shop here. If increased police presence makes us safer, we need to ensure there is money in the budget to add these officers. This may mean reducing spending in other areas. I have looked over the proposed budget, and I can see multiple ways to reduce spending, even on a temporary basis, in order to afford these additional police officers. I believe all of you are intelligent enough to find ways to cut spending in other areas, and some suggestions were made by Alderman Lay at the Ways and Means meeting. Bola, in your opening summary letter of the 2013 proposal to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen, and in your conclusion, you stated, "This budget process was challenging in that we received requests for new programs and new positions that the budget could not sustain. As we considered the trade-offs between these requests and the need to start setting aside funds to build a healthy reserve, the proposed budget achieves a good balance across priorities and delivers on the quality services that our community expects and deserves." Now, I am all for increasing our reserves, but not at the expense of safety. I believe you would be hard-pressed to find a citizen that doesn't think safety is a priority. Just today, I spoke with a real estate agent, and she said she has had clients mention concerns about the increased crime here in Brentwood. She stated, "With increased crime, our property values will go down." She said, in her opinion, safety trumps fluff like Brentwood Days, the water feature of Brentwood, and Highway 40, etc. According to the Legislative Department mission statement, goals and objectives, the #3 objective is to continue to be proactive in economic development and focuses on how to continue to have a vibrant commercial and industrial sector. That's great, but we all understand that with that comes the real possibility of increased crime.
Susan Ryan, Pine Avenue. I have to read off my iPhone, so I hope that I could do it well. I had written an email to Alderwoman Saunders, and she asked me to read it aloud. Sometimes I just write emails, but I had been reading the comprehensive plan. I found it to be well done, actually. So I was writing, per the comprehensive plan, we have moved forward with commercial aspects that should have positioned us to have the funds to maintain and or increase service and staffing appropriately. Along with our commercial growth, we now find our community experiencing greater and more serious crime. Understanding the source of the increase is important to ensure we take the appropriate steps to curtail. Whether that is added officers is best addressed by those who know the trends and the concerns. Beyond the commercial progress, the residential aspects of the comprehensive plan seem stalled or neglected. The comprehensive plan also calls for strong enforcement of the city's property maintenance code. This is an alderman charge with staff. However, having adequate staff to accomplish our goals is essential. There has been 1 million square feet of added commercial real estate without adding planning and zoning staff. Where does that leave the residential enforcement? At the very bottom. The plan calls for a sense of place in the way of a community center and clear direction from citizens to maintain the character of our community and our neighborhoods. The comprehensive plan references development of design guidelines for construction of new infill and expansion of existing homes. Is there any such guidelines beyond the bare basics of the generic build code and the ARB's subjective discretion on scale, proximity, and design? We need a coordinated comprehensive plan on urban consolidation to ensure that Brentwood neighborhoods retain their character, are well maintained, and are the source of the overall community pride. The green space and general sense of place is being lost. We need to get back to the spirit and the intent of the plan and what we wish Brentwood to look and feel like. Our experience should be a wake-up call. I would also like to ask where the review of the request I sent in and a time frame on when I can expect an answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise Seving, I live on Porter. And in following up with what Susan was saying, and it's kind of an extension, at the October 15th aldermanic meeting, there was a gentleman from Lewis who had not seen at these meetings before, an older gentleman, and he made the comment that it really hit home for me, and I hope if some of you were listening to that. He was talking about how the city isn't doing its job and hasn't been for several years enforcing codes, property codes, basically some of the things that Susan was saying. For example, he pointed out that the last house on Lewis, the northwest corner, that for years it's been overgrown and trees have been laying in their yard and trees haven't been cut down or maintained. There are new owners that have purchased it, and this whole house, it's taken on a whole different, improved look at this point. But for years, people that have lived in the area have walked by this house, and it looked like it wasn't even someone living there. We're not sure if there were or not. But as he said, the city isn't enforcing the codes. The city isn't doing their job looking at these things and enforcing these codes. I know I've lived in my house personally for 19 years. And I was there for about 3 or 4 years. It was brand new construction, and the paint started chipping on mine and several homes. We were given summons that we had to get our houses repainted and fixed within a 30-day period, or the city was going to come in and paint it, and we would be paying the expense. And while it wasn't a very positive thing, a brand new house, and you're having to already do repairs to the paint because the commercial grade wasn't very good, it still maintained the integrity of the neighborhood. And we all did. We took care of getting it painted. But as I've been coming to these meetings for months and months and actually years, I've been saying a lot of what this same gentleman's been saying, maybe not so pointed as what he said. But Andy, we've sent you emails, and Bola, we've sent you emails. We don't even get responses to our emails anymore. We talk about the trees in our area. There were 8 dead trees on one commercial property at a corner on our street. 8 dead trees that have now been cut down, but now we have stumps. At 3 meetings ago, Andy, you told me that those stumps were on a list to be removed. I haven't seen any activity to remove those stumps. And, I would hope maintaining the green space, this is a commercial property, that somebody's going to come in and put some more trees or bushes or something. Originally, they were put up there to hide the building because it's not very attractive as you're coming up Porter. You see this, it's the radio, antenna building, and it's not a very pretty property. Last automatic meeting, you all spent a long, long time discussing about temporary permits to let companies move in without having everything taken care of, even if they couldn't plant their trees and everything. But what about enforcing the laws and the codes that are on the book now? The property values are being impacted by the lack of these kinds of things. They may seem trivial to you all, but when you go by and see it day in and day out, it's not healthy to keep looking at these kinds of things. We've talked about the gravel in the streets and along Manchester. When you walk, you have to be careful you're not tripping on it. We've been told that it's because there's no street cleaners. We can think outside the box. Why not ask the property owners, the companies, the commercial people, sweep up the gutters, put it in a pile on your parking lot some Sunday afternoon, and then Public Works can go by on Monday and pick it up. We don't have to do it every day, maybe once or twice a year, and that would make a big difference. It's minor little things like that add up to making our community look a lot better. The other thing is the sound issue. I've talked to you all several times about this, and I know you authorized a sound study to be done, which it was when there was no sound going on. I asked that not be done until actually there was a sound going on. Well, it started up again. It's not the full level, it's a minor level, but I would like somebody to come out and hear it, not to be our one-time shot to hear it at the high level, but for people to hear what we're going through. Again, it may not seem like a lot to you, it may seem trivial, but when you listen to it, when it's going through Friday night into Saturday morning, and you're hearing a constant hum all night, all day, it gets old. Again, it's those kinds of things that are making us feel like our community is lacking. It's not as good as it was in the past. And it took this other gentleman to say that for me to realize it's not just us, and it's just not my neighbors that are saying it, but there's other people in the community that don't feel comfortable coming up in there and saying it that are seeing it too. And I don't think it's a matter of we not having money. I think it's a matter of our priorities. We're choosing to spend our money on maintaining a fountain, $20,000 a year. We're choosing to buy a car for the city administrator when we have a pool car. You know, why do we have to make those major pet expenses? You know, why not try to keep our community looking like it was 10, 15 years ago? Thank you.
Karen Smith on Harrison.
Alderman Kramer, I didn't hear that. Could you share, please, or? I didn't hear what you were saying.
I didn't say it loud enough for you to hear it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Karen Smith, Harrison. I'm just going to comment on Bill 5701. I'm glad to see that that was removed from the agenda. 6 of that bill, there's a statement there that if an employee has reason to believe that the city clerk administrator may be involved in fraudulent activity, he or she should notify the mayor or city attorney. I know that I've made the request, and I believe I've heard others make it as well, that we should consider also adding the police department on there, or the chief of police on there. I think given the issue with Chris Seemeyer, it was addressed when the issue was taken to the chief of police. The prosecuting attorney that tried that case criminally gave great high recommendations to the way the police department handled it. And I think that given the fact that that was a process that worked, that our city should strongly consider having that option available to employees in the future. If the city, if we don't learn from our mistakes, we will be forced to repeat them. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Actually, Alderman Kramer's comment was maybe we could ask Ellen if you could maybe talk a little bit about code enforcement and maybe some of the things we're doing, or would you like to do that at the next meeting? Oh, okay. I mean, either way. I mean, would you rather just do it at the next meeting and have a presentation on code enforcement? Sure. Would that be okay? Okay. Yeah, that'd be fine. And do we have any update on the requests?
I probably 7 to 10 days ago received a fairly substantial file from the city. I am in the process of reviewing that. I need to meet with Ellen. We were going to meet last week, and for reasons out of our control, we're unable to do it. I will work on it as expeditiously as possible, but I can't give you a precise time frame right now.
And I will just touch one comment with respect to the resident and house on Lewis Avenue, because I think there was a dig intended to get into me on that comment, because I know the gentleman didn't mention the last house on the northwest corner, because that's my mom's house. I would have remembered that if he had said it. So yeah, for the last few years, my mom liked trees, and we didn't cut down any trees, but we maintained the grass, and she lived there and was able to stay in her home until she passed away about 1.5 years ago. Sure, there were bushes growing up around the fences and that, but that's why my mom liked it. She liked her plants, and she liked to have her trees in her yard. The new owner bought it and cleared out the yard and took down all the trees. They're all living trees. None of them were dead. And the house looks great. But you know, my mom did the best she could, and the family helped her take care of it so she could stay in her house. And I'm sure he didn't say that last week because I would have remembered it at the last meeting. But I think, you know, again, and Ellen can do a presentation on code enforcement. You know, we kind of go through cycles with that here in the city. And every few years, we've actually gone through and focused on one ward at a time, gone house by house, and tried to, you know, enforce all of the exterior code violations that we have in the city. It can be very difficult sometimes because people, you know, object to when you're going around and strictly enforcing some of the codes. And we also have chronic people that are nuisances. Even when you do give them notices, you know, they tend to bend the rules or, you know, make it very difficult going to court and then getting extensions and so forth and before they get the work done. But hopefully, you know, Ellen, maybe we can do a presentation at the next meeting on some of the things we've done. And maybe it's that time that we go through the city again and go house by house and do that. I can know that as an elected official, going back to when I was an alderman and mayor, we've done that at least 3 times over different years where we've gone through and done that. And unfortunately, a lot of times it takes a neighbor calling to tell us that there's an issue in somebody's backyard or somebody isn't taking care of something or leaving their trash cans out and those kinds of things. And we appreciate that help. We don't go and tell that person that your neighbor called, but we do go by and make those inspections and do that determination whether there isn't a violation that occurs. You know, we have roughly 4,000 homes here, including Brentwood Forest in Brentwood. We've got nearly 700 businesses, some of them home businesses, and it is a job to keep up on all of that. But I think our staff does a pretty good job, and if we need to have another blitz through the city and do that, then that's what we'll do. But Ellen, maybe we could have a presentation next meeting. Next, if we could move on to introduction. Oh, Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes, I wanted to explain to the residents here, because I see we have young ones here, and one had emailed would maybe be coming to earn a badge, and I'm very, very proud of you that you are interested in government and coming to meetings and that and writing a report and that. You'll get your friends interested, but you can really make a difference. And I wanted to apologize because you saw that I was a little short with my fellow aldermen. But I do believe that when you are in this kind of a position in that we have to treat each other with respect, even if we don't agree with their questions and their answers. And so that's what I'm asking of my fellow aldermen. I've been yelled at multiple times and scolded, and I'm just going to make it known that I'm not going to tolerate that kind of behavior. I'm an accountant, so I ask questions that are far different than other members on this board. It's my nature. And when numbers don't add up, or if I think something doesn't seem right, doesn't pass the smell test, I ask questions. It's what I do. It's how I inquired into the beginning of the healthcare elected officials and couldn't find the substantiation for that. It's why I inquire why somebody else's W-2 is different than others. I will keep asking questions. And we have found, even since Chris has left, we've uncovered more and more things that have been done wrong in the past. We're going to have an instance of a contract that we're going to have to approve retroactive. I am not ashamed of asking these questions. I think you should always ask questions if you feel in your gut something isn't right. And that's what I do. So I apologize for my manner with you young people here. I hope you treat people when you ask your questions with courtesy, and I will do the same, but I also expect to be treated the same. Thank you for being here.
Your Honor.
Alderman Kramer.
If I could, I just wanted to give some feedback on the code enforcement topic since it was raised. That topic has been around for a while, and I wanted to applaud our former Alderman Marshall's efforts, who was instrumental along with other members of our various committees in trying to increase the level of enforcement that we have in the city regarding our codes. We work hand in hand with the courts in that regard. Sometimes the courts are strict, sometimes they're not as strict. But if you go back and look at the records of our enforcement, say 10 years ago versus the last 5 years, the last 3 years, there's a definite night and day difference. We have increased our quality of enforcement. We've increased our breadth of enforcement, thanks in large part to Assistant City Administrator Ellen Rotkajab, who has done a wonderful a job at being patient with the residents instead of just, I guess, for lack of a better word, dictatorial. A city can very easily, Mayor, as you remember, before you became an elected official, one of the things that you were upset about with the city was the type of things that were said and the way it was said versus the fact that there was something that was in question. And I just want to say that there is an enormous amount of effort. It's always on our minds. Each of the aldermen here get a report on a regular basis from the departments regarding enforcement. It's not an easy thing to do, especially in some cases where the folks don't have the money to correct their violations. They come to the court and they ask for grace period, they ask for extensions, and the city tries to do their best to extend those applications as best they can. It is a work in progress, but I wanted to explain from my point of view that the city is light years ahead of where it used to be, and I look forward to greater enhancement of those activities. Thank you.
Great. Can I add something? Sure. I just want to say to Karen Smith, when you're up here and you spoke, I know you have opinions of the city, but no one interrupted you or groaned when they had a difference in your opinion, and I just ask that you extend that same courtesy to the aldermen when they speak. I know you're passionate about the city and want to put it in the right direction, which I think is great, but we also have to go about that in the right way, and I just think interrupting others when they're making their points is not the correct way.
Sure. Okay. If
Mayor Kelly, I just have one question.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Just Denise Seving asked about the county study, sound study, the sound study, or the sounding. The noise is sounding now. I'm sorry. And maybe my memory's failed me. I know this came before Public Works, and we referred it to planning and zoning. Did this come back before the board? Did we adopt the county sound study? We were going to change our code.
It wasn't county, but yeah.
I'm sorry. It was St. Louis County, and we referred it back because our decibels.
No, we hired an
were-
outside sound.
No, I'm not talking about the study. We were going to modify our code to be consistent with St. Louis County's sound code.
Okay.
Because ours was on several different ranges. It was difficult to perform a sound study, so he thought it might be better to be consistent with St. Louis County. And I know we referred that back to planning and zoning, and I can't remember if it came back before the board.
It should be back to the Board of Aldermen by December. The subcommittee just finished its review, made a recommendation, and we did take, on the recommendation of McClure Engineers, the county ordinance as a model, modified it somewhat, and the final draft of the ordinance will be taken back to P&Z next Wednesday, and then it should come back to the board sometime in December.
Can I ask, Ellen, were we going to, I had asked at Public Works meeting that we include the daytime, nighttime because of the commercial corridor bordering up to residential homes?
That's one of the changes that's been made.
Thank
is
you.
to have separate requirements for day and night.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. If I have a motion for the introduction and reading of bills number 5706, 5707, 5708, 5709, 5710, 5711, 5712, and 5713. And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Leahy for the first and second reading of bills only. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. First reading of bill number 5706, please.
First reading Bill Number 5706 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor acting on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into an agreement with Missouri Partners for Inclusive Recreation and its participating members, City of De Pere, Missouri, and Executive Director of MPIR, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is a housekeeping item. Bill 5706 is one that allows for an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Brentwood to sign the agreement with municipal partners for inclusive recreation. This, as we said, is housekeeping for the city, which signed a contract as of February 2011, Because of circumstances at the time, it did not go before Public Works or the Board of Aldermen to be approved. However, the Public Works Committee did unanimously approve this contract at their meeting on Wednesday, October the 10th.
Okay. Any questions? Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes, could you please tell, what were the circumstances that it didn't get approved or signed in 2011?
The city administrator left the city.
I'm sorry.
The city administrator left the city.
And he'd already incurred cost under the contract, correct?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Did we owe her money? Was this your neighbor? Did we owe her money under the contract?
She represents the Missouri Partners for Inclusive Recreation. So what we're attempting to do is to formalize that contract. It would.
Okay,
And
but
she's
she was
evaluating
performing
our-
work without a contract, is that correct?
Basically.
Okay, thank you.
For bringing the city into compliance with
ADA.
ADA requirements with respect to all of our buildings and facilities. So it's something that almost all municipalities are going through. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5706 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor acting on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into an agreement with Missouri Partners for Inclusive Recreation and its participating members, City of De Pere, Missouri, and Executive Director of MPIR, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances.
Okay. Alderwoman Saunders?
I just want to clarify my comment that that's how mistakes are made, and that City Administrator Seamayor went ahead and was paying an individual and having him perform work without coming before the board. So it's another mistake that was uncovered.
Thank you. A motion, please.
Motion to approve Bill 5706 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
And second?
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Kramer. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 5706 is now ordinance number 4380.
Thank you. First reading bill number 5707.
First reading Bill Number 5707, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Center 40 LLC.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is a little bit involved, but it is very important. It's regarding one of our pedestrian features, Bill 5707. It's a bill for an ordinance authorizing the city administrator of our city to enter into a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Center 40 LLC. Project consists of constructing new sidewalks, sidewalk ramps, ADA-compliant sidewalks and ramps, decorative pedestrian lighting, and replacement of fencing and signage with decorative fencing and new signage from Brentwood Boulevard down Rose Avenue over Black Creek to Brentwood Promenade. The new sidewalks will be ADA-compliant, improve pedestrian safety, and provide an amenity for the surrounding property owners and business customers and employees walk within this area. A surface transportation project grant was awarded to the city of Brentwood and is being used to fund 80%, or approximately $276,800, all of the project costs, excuse me. The city is responsible for the 20% match, which is $69,200. This is the same process that the city has undertaken to acquire easements for the Brentwood Pedestrian and Transit Improvement Project. Once the easement documents are fully executed, the city can request the right-of-way clearance from MoDOT so that we can proceed with final approval of the construction phase.
Okay. Alderwoman Saunders.
Ellen, you know the question that's coming. Did we have to pay for the easement?
Now, the 3 easements that are before you this evening are all being donated. The easement agreements are not finally executed yet, but the property owners have indicated they will donate. And one of the owners, we just will reimburse some legal expenses, and that's it.
Thank you so much to you for the answer, and then the property owners for sharing in this improvement.
Okay, second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5707 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and Center 40 LLC.
We have a motion, please. So moved. And second.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Leahy. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 5707 is now ordinance number 4381.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5708.
First reading bill number 5708 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and the White Building LP, a Missouri limited white management company.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor. This is going to sound strikingly familiar. Bill 5708 is a bill for an ordinance authorizing our city administrator to enter into a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and the White Building LP, a Missouri limited white management company. And that's the project consisting of the new sidewalks, sidewalk ramps, ADA compliant sidewalks and ramps, decorative pedestrian lighting, and replacement of fencing and signing with decorative fencing and new signage from Brentwood Boulevard down through Rose Avenue, over Black Creek to the Brentwood Promenade, just sort of a grandmother's house. The new sidewalks will be ADA compliant, improve pedestrian safety, and provide an amenity for the surrounding property owners and businesses whose customers and employees walk within this area. A surface transportation project grant was awarded to the city and is being used to fund 80%, $276,800 of the project costs. The city is responsible for the 20% match, $69,200. Project is the same process the city has undertaken to acquire easements for the Brentwood Pedestrian and Transit Improvement Act and the project. Once the easement documents are fully executed, City of Brentwood can request right-of-way clearance from MoDOT. We can then proceed with final approval of the construction phase.
Okay. And can I just ask that bill number 5709, which is the next one, will be the same synopsis? So maybe
Yes, sir.
we don't need to read that one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, but
Any
it does it
questions
so-
or comments?
it does it
Alderwoman
so
Saunders?
Alderman Kramer, can I ask, you're saying that our match would be like $69,000?
Yes.
Are these the same projects that are in the 2013 budget that are, like, we have Rose Avenue, 272,800?
That's it.
Yes.
So why is the amount 272 in 2013?
Because you'll see on the revenue side, we get it reimbursed.
Okay, so that's all, so that all, the capital improvements next year, that million is being reimbursed? And we're only paying 69.9? And
Of
we're
the
doing
total
that this year?
project costs, right.
Does that get paid this year?
No, it'll be in 2013,
Okay, great.
as far as I know.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Again, these grants go in three phases, typically. And Ellen, correct me if I'm wrong. But usually the first year when the grant's awarded, you do your engineering and designing of a project. The second year, which we're in right now, is the right-of-way and acquisition phase. And then the third year is typically then the construction of the project. So there may be expenses for those first 2 years that are paid out by the city and then reimbursed at the end, right? Or do we get reimbursements as we go along? Right, okay. So each year there's a certain amount allocated for each one of those phases, like right-of-way acquisition and so forth, and so then we're reimbursed. But the total project cost is $276, right, roughly, and then our part of that is $69.2. So,
Your Honor?
yes,
Go
Alderman
ahead.
Kramer.
Just another question. I'm just trying to understand this because, like I said, I saw that in the budget and I misunderstood. I missed the revenue side. Have we been reimbursed for the right costs that we've already paid out, Ellen, on these improvements? There's been other easements that we've had to pay for the property. Will we, or is that at the end of the project if we don't overrun the construction costs?
No, we haven't submitted any right-of-way costs for this project yet because we haven't incurred any. The right-of-way cost for the last project, the Brentwood pedestrian, the sidewalk project in Hanley Industrial, we have, we've paid those easements. We've paid for those easements and we request reimbursement. We just haven't, I don't believe we received it yet.
Okay.
So we send the reimbursement request to MoDOT periodically as we incur bills and
Okay.
expenses.
And which project, how do you refer to that project?
It's,
I get them mixed up.
It's the Brentwood Pedestrian and Transit
Okay,
project.
thank you.
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Your Honor?
Yes, Alderman Kramer.
I just wanted to, Ellen, feel free to hang around there. Sorry. I just wanted to pass along, in layman's terms, it's an initiative that Alderwoman Cruzen and myself were very fond of, and I know that Chris and yourself had begun work on this probably at some point, what was it, 5 or 6 years ago?
This particular one?
This one and the other one inside Hanley Industrial
Yeah, it was
Court.
2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
In effect, Your Honor, as you know, this is a way that the city is able to use some public funding, in great part, to help our residents get to and from without having to walk in the street.
Oh, right.
It's a really, really wonderful initiative, and I'm excited about the fact that we are inching closer ever still. And just wanted to thank you, Ellen, once again for your work on the effort.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5708 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and the White Building LP, a Missouri Limited White Management Company.
Okay. Have a motion, please.
Motion to approve Bill 5708 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Robertson to perfect Bill number 5708 into ordinance form. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Weir.
Yes.
Bill number 5708 is now ordinance number 4382.
Thank you. First reading, Bill number 5709.
First reading, Bill number 5709 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and GS Brentwood LLC, a Delaware limited liability company.
Thank you. And again, that's the same synopsis as the last two
Yes, sir.
to earn easement for this construction project. Any questions? Second
got
reading,
it.
please.
Second reading, Bill number 5709 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a temporary easement agreement and a permanent easement agreement between the city of Brentwood and GS Brentwood LLC, a Delaware limited liability company.
Motion, Your Honor, to approve it into ordinance form, please.
And second?
A second.
Motion was made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderwoman Bannister to perfect Bill number 5709 into ordinance form. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 5709 is now ordinance number 4383.
Okay, thank you. First reading of Bill number 5710, please.
First reading, Bill number 5710, an ordinance approving site plan approval for a signage plan for 1600 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Your Honor, this is the Center 40 building, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Bill 5710 for an ordinance approving the site plan approval for a signage plan that would allow a wall sign at the 1600 South Brentwood Boulevard location.
Thank you. Any question on the Lay?
In reading this bill, Your Honor, the thing that threw me the biggest problem is we've made this type of exception, and we're headed down that road to allow it versus staying hard to the code. And I understand the location and the necessity, but I really would like to see us hold to the code that we have versus expanding outward.
Okay.
Actually, in the sign code, there's a provision where if a property is located in the planned development district, the sign code doesn't apply. It can apply for a property that just wants a sign that fits within the existing sign code, but they do have the opportunity to request a signage plan. So there's a comprehensive plan for signage that includes the entire site. When this applicant came before the Planning and Zoning Commission, their new tenant, which is Strayer University, which is taking 13,000 feet in the White Building, just wanted a wall sign. And at that time, the White Company did not have a signage plan. So this actually was an opportunity for us to bring the property into a whole comprehensive sign plan that makes the signage requested for Strayer work, and also any future signage will have to comply with this plan. So it helped kind of clean it up a little bit.
Okay.
Got a question. the businesses in these buildings, do they have any other place to put up signage? Because it is kind of confusing if something small is located in there and you're not familiar with the area. to
Could you
find-
I'm sorry.
It's kind of confusing sometimes if you're not from the area and you want to go to a business inside these buildings to actually figure out the location as you're driving down Brentwood Boulevard and traffic's barreling down on you. Are there other options these businesses have?
The only options for exterior signage are what's shown in the exhibit, where they have the ground sign that has several tenant spaces, and then some tenant panels on the fountain signage, and then the two wall signs that are part of this. So they'd have to use, if someone was directing someone to their business in White Company that had a smaller space and they didn't have signage on the building, they'd have to use another landmark, like the Center 40 name on the ground sign, or say where the building where Strayer is located, or that sort of thing.
Okay.
Thanks.
In the city administrator report? Oh, I missed.
Second reading, please.
I had a question,
Second.
sorry,
Sorry,
question for
Alderman
Ellen.
Saunders.
I'm sorry, I was asking for pictures, and I wasn't feeling well this weekend, and I didn't realize that they were put in with the city administrator report instead of our packet. If we were asking them to adhere to, oh, great, thank you. If we were asking them to adhere to the code, not given special circumstances because of PD, I was not in favor when they did that, when they allowed PD developments to skirt the signage code, when they were developing that. But in this instance, if we didn't have that in there, that PD didn't have to
Flexibility.
yeah, what would they not be able to have on this?
That particular building would be allowed to have, the Center 40 building would be allowed to have a ground sign that's 5 feet high, including a 1-foot base with only one building identification sign on it, and one wall sign for each ground floor tenant, if there was one that had a separate entrance on the ground level. Like at the Kimberly building, we have multiple tenants that have their own storefronts on Brentwood Boulevard. So it'd be they'd be very limited in the amount of signage they could have. Strayer does not have, it's a major tenant at 13,000 feet, but it doesn't have ground floor space, so they wouldn't be allowed to have any signage at all.
So do you think this is better, or a little cleaner, more effective, in your opinion?
I do, because now the owner knows the future tenants that come in to negotiate for their leases and what kind of signage they're having. They know what the rules are for that particular building, and this would
I
apply
noticed
to.
the Magna Bank has them up, like the Phoenix.
They're
you know
not
what I
in.
mean?
They're not in
And
planned development, so they actually had to request a variance
for that.
those.
But I do think it's effective, and I do think it looks nice. So
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5710 by title only, an ordinance approving site plan approval for a signage plan for 1600 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Motion, please.
Motion to approve as submitted, Your Honor. Bill 5710.
And second.
I'll second, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Kramer, second by Alderman Robertson to perfect Bill number 5710 into ordinance form. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
No.
Alderman Toohey.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 5710 is now ordinance number 4384.
Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5711.
First reading, Bill Number 5711 by title only, an ordinance approving site plan approval for an amendment to the existing Brentwood Square signage plan for Michael's Arts and Crafts Store located at 1519 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Any questions? Oh, synopsis, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Your Honor, Bill 5711 is a bill for an ordinance approving a site plan approval for an amendment to the existing Brentwood Square signage plan for Michael's Arts and Crafts Store located at 1519 South Brentwood Boulevard. The store would like to create a signage plan for their store that would allow window and awning signage at the location. I believe we have renderings of that proposal.
Okay. Any questions?
Helen, can I ask you, does this create any problems with the other tenants within that building or that complex within Brentwood Square?
Well, as part of the application, they had to request an amendment to the existing signage plan. And so, because Brentwood Square is under a signage plan as well. So each of the individual tenant spaces, REI and Whole Foods, Container Store, all of them have specific signage size that they're allowed to have and number of signs. So the point I was trying to make is the owner of the center, Pace Properties, had to approve this. And so that, I guess I would say that would be my guess, is that the other tenants either wouldn't have a say or wouldn't have a problem because the owner of the whole center that manages the property did approve this request.
Okay, so Brentwood Square was not a planned development?
It is the plan development, so it has a signage plan that was adopted when the center was initially created.
So they would have been restricted basically to the signage that Borders had.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. So
Yes.
the border signage is what they were allowed to have, and they wanted to fill the window space that was left. Again, they're
Right.
re-tenanting a space that was really built for a different
For a
tenant.
different tenant, I understand.
And the architect representing the petitioner is here as well too, if you have any questions for the applicant.
Are they getting any privileges the other tenants don't have?
Pardon me?
Are they getting a lot of privileges the other tenants don't have? And are you worried about a domino effect? Of they get this, and
No.
then REI wants something similar, and Nordstrom Rack wants something else?
Actually, REI, a couple of years ago, when they changed their logo slightly, they had to amend the signage plan. It was really just a color change and a slight size change. So other tenants have been allowed to make slight changes in order to, when spaces are being re-tenanted, or if signage needs for the tenants are changing, then they can request that. The window signage is really the only item that's different than what the signage plan currently allows, and it is not to change. It's permanent signage, other than if it gets worn out by sun exposure or whatever, they can replace it with the exact same thing. So I guess I'd say no, it's not really over and above. They're just a tenant trying to reuse a space that has all this vacant window area, and they wanted a way to to close it up and also make it appealing from the exterior.
So, Ellen, will the other tenant, I didn't get a
No, that's
question.
fine. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
Will the other then tenants come back and say, we want some window signage? I mean, is that a possibility, or do we have to review them on a case? Like, does this set up a precedence where we can't say no to another tenant?
No, it doesn't. Every request is taken on a case-by-case basis, and other tenants currently have window signage because they're allowed to have 20% of the window area on the ground floor to have window signage there. Okay. So they already enjoy that and are able to use that, and I don't know how many other tenants have second-story window area that they
I think only REI would be the only.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be, I know Planning and Zoning Commission has a history of really taking every application on a case-by-case basis, and they're pretty conservative when it comes to signage.
Yeah, I always, what's brought forward is always done really well, and an improvement of some of the things that are brought first to planning and zoning. So I do appreciate that. I just want to make sure it doesn't set a precedence where we can't say no to the other tenants, but you're saying that doesn't.
I don't believe it does.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. Second reading of Bill number 5711, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5711 by title only, an ordinance approving site plan approval for an amendment to the existing Brentwood Square signage plan for Michael's Arts and Crafts Store located at 1519 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Motion, please. So moved. And a second?
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Motion was made by Alderman Nguyen, seconded by Alderman Kramer to perfect Bill number 5711 into ordinance form. Roll call.
Alderwoman Saunders.
This is out of order, but I forgot to ask a question.
That's fine.
Okay. Is this painted on the windows, the balls of yarn and the pencils?
No, it's not. It's something that's hung inside behind the window.
Mm.
And the exact fabric is.
It's actually applied to a wall behind.
So there is a wall behind the window in the second level that would just be vacant space. But so I just wanted to clarification from the architect who's here. It is applied to the wall that's behind the window, so it's not hanging from the ceiling. It's actually attached to the wall.
So it appears it's the window.
Yes, because it will be lit, so it's
lit.
visible from the street.
Okay, and is there, have we seen this done at another Michael's? Do you know? Have we seen this?
Well, I think I mean, I can't answer that specifically, but I think the issue is that this is a unique building. This is actually the first time they've had a two-story store. So, they're retrofitting to the design that was actually made for Borders. And so they had all this window space that they're trying to make look appropriate and look appealing from the outside. That's good.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
No.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
No.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 5711 is now ordinance number 4385.
First reading of bill number 5712, please.
First reading, Bill Number 5712 by title only, an ordinance approving site plan approval for an amendment to the signage plan for 2525 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Synopsis, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is for the refined room, I believe, Bill 5712. It's for an ordinance approving a site plan for an amendment to the signage plan currently in existence for 2525 South Brentwood Boulevard. The petitioner wishes to amend the signage plan for the store location at that location.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh, I have questions again.
Alderman Saunders.
Sorry. We had an applicant that came forward with the, where Double D Lounge is, that it's another, or like a refresh store, or they had signage that they wanted, neon signs and different things, and
Yes.
we wouldn't allow it.
Well, it never finished its review at Planning and Zoning Commission. They withdrew their application.
Oh, okay, so it never moved on. Does this create any kind of problem again? Does this with other tenants or precedents or?
No, in fact, the last time when the signage plan was created for this building is when Birthright came forward to request permission for a ground sign and a couple of wall signs. And the refined room worked with Birthright and H&R Block to, when this particular business tenanted the space, they'll work together to amend the sign plan so it worked for all of them. The H&R Block sign on the east wall of the building has been removed, and there's a refined room sign there now, which was allowed under the current sign plan. And for those of you who do see the building, they are going to be cleaning up the east face. That just hasn't been done yet. And then the awning that she's requesting is something new. So they had to add that to amend the sign plan. But in exchange, Birthright removed from the signage plan, they had requested the ground sign. It was approved for the median that's like the median area that's right when you turn into the building off of Brentwood Boulevard. It never has been constructed. It had like 4 or 5 tenant spaces. And they requested that be removed from the plan and instead have the refined room wall signs approved.
This is an awning there, the refined
It is an
room?
awning,
But
yes.
it doesn't follow the shape of the architecture there, that top?
No, it doesn't. The rendering doesn't show it, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval as submitted and gave the applicant allowed her the flexibility to finalize her design of the awning, which would either be curved or it could be rectangular also, as shown here.
Okay.
So they recommended it with the condition that she could have that flexibility.
Okay. I'd feel better if we could see what she's going to do with it. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5712 by title only, an ordinance approving site plan approval for an amendment to the signage plan for 2525 South Brentwood Boulevard, providing for the enforcement of this ordinance and establishing the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Alderman Leahy.
Move to perfect Bill 5712 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
In second?
I'll second, Your Honor.
Motion is made by Alderman Lay, second by Alderman Robertson to perfect Bill number 5712 into ordinance form. Roll call.
Alderwoman Saunders.
No.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 712 is now ordinance number 4386.
Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5713, please.
First reading Bill number 5713 by title only, an ordinance vacating certain right-of-way and other interests held in trust by the city which were previously dedicated to the city of Brentwood and are no longer necessary for the purposes for which such interests were dedicated.
Thank you. Synopsis, please.
Your Honor, Bill 5713 is a bill that is making available an ordinance for vacation of the right-of-way for an adjacent to the property located at 8702 Eulalie Avenue. Petitioner and property owner Mark Manlin has requested the city vacate a 25-foot wide strip adjacent to the 8702 Eulalie site. Mr. Manlin intends to remove the existing home at 8702 Eulalie and construct a brand-new single-family home in its place. The Architecture Review Board of the City of Brentwood approved this at its September 20th meeting. Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the right-of-way vacation request at its October 10th meeting.
Okay. Any questions? Oh, Ellen, you're going to show us? Okay.
I have an exhibit that the applicant provided that shows the requested portion, the requested easement, or vacation area, and where it's located in proximity to the existing linear trail that the city has. And it's actually really kind of hard to tell from this.
It didn't come in as
But
well.
the vacation area is here. It's 25-foot wide strip, and then it's approximately 25 feet away from the existing trail, so it doesn't at all impact. The city still owns right-of-way on the east side that includes the trail and green space on either side of the trail. That was something the Planning and Zoning Commission was a little bit concerned about, is losing any of the green space.
Ellen, if I'm not mistaken, and this is just from discussions a while back, isn't it actually where the driveway is?
Yes,
So
it
actually where you see that vehicle parked is actually the area we're talking about. And this is the very last house on this block of Eulalie on the south side, for the residents that are familiar with that. And that actually sits about 8 feet above the path that basically goes up from where the path is. So it really isn't ground that the city could utilize, I guess is what I'm getting at,
Right.
to a certain extent. So
And it has been continuously utilized
as
the driveway for 8702 Eulalie, even though it has been technically in city right-of-way.
right. Alderman Lay.
Ellen, did anybody do any search to verify that there's no utilities or anything that's in that right-of-way that we may have to get access to in the future?
I don't know if the applicant is here this evening. Sterling Engineers did the right-of-way vacation plat, and
It does not show up on the survey.
There are none.
There's nothing in the right-of-way that... Side? Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I couldn't see when I walked around and drove. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Alderman Saunders.
I have a question. This is a private home that's going to be going in? Is that a residential home?
yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Now, I know I've always harped about paying for right-of-way. Is this, you know how we put sidewalks on and their properties improved, so I expect them to donate the right-of-way? Are we donating this, or are we receiving,
No, this is
or do I misunderstand?
the city. This is city right-of-way that is being vacated at with no payment to the city, which I believe is consistent with how the city has vacated right-of-way in the past. Any expenses related to the city's incurred very few, if at all, any expenses related to this vacation request, because the applicant has actually paid for their own engineer to do the survey and prepare the documents. So if the city were to incur any costs as part of a vacation, we would ask that the applicant reimburse us those. But other than that, there's no request from the city at this point to be reimbursed or paid for.
Because typically, if you're vacating a right-of-way, it reverts back to the property owners. So the original plat.
Oh, okay, so originally, and
It was,
they
right. Now
deeded
there-
it to us,
In
is
this
that?
particular area, you're dealing with the railroad right-of-way and residents and a whole bunch of things. But typically, when you vacate, let's say if you vacate it to the center of the street on that would then revert back to those property owners that it was taken away from them to build the street, that kind of thing.
So if we're taking away, like, if we take away, we just, like the easements, we grant them and then we take them away, the temporary easement in that, is that similar to this? We just take it away?
Yeah, because
or-
it wasn't ever utilized by the city. So, for
Okay.
instance, I think if you actually look at the plats, I think my opinion is, when looking at this, is this probably was for a roadway to go between Litzinger and Eulalie. Because it actually goes to the same right-of-way is in place for the house to the south of that to go to Litzinger, who also uses it for their driveway, right? And has for as long as I've been around, so. Right.
I apologize.
No,
Like I said, if I
right.
hadn't been, when I got my packet, I should have
But
driven
typically, when
around
we've
and I should have looked
abandoned-
at all of this, and I apologize. for
I don't
not
know that
being better
whenever we've
prepared.
abandoned a right-of-way, we've never charged for it.
We've done this in the past, we've
Oh, yeah.
abandoned right-of-ways. Okay.
Alleys and
Certain.
roadways like
Yes,
this and that
yeah.
kind of stuff. Right. Because the city doesn't have use for that property.
Well-
And it puts it back on the tax rolls, too.
Well, the only other charge that will be incurred is filing with the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds to remove the right-of-way from the plot.
That's correct.
So, and the applicant will be picking up that fee?
We'd probably go ahead and have the applicant record it for us,
Yes.
so.
Okay.
Okay? Thank-
Is it stated in here the cost, any costs will be picked up by them in vacating? Okay, can we amend it just to add that they'll pick up
I
any
mean,
costs?
yeah, it's our procedure. It's not, don't they know that going in, Ellen? Can we-
I did talk to the applicant about that going in, but
I'm just, you know me,
it would
again, I'm an
hurt
accountant.
that.
Sorry, I like everything in writing. It's a bad habit. So is it appropriate to amend it?
Yeah, make your amendment. Yeah.
Okay, I amend that bill number 5713 includes a section that the Dyquem 913 LLC will pick up all costs associated with the city vacating this right
We'll
away.
reimburse the city for any city expenses. How's that?
Okay, thank you.
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's just for the amendment only? Okay. Second reading, please, as amended.
Second reading, bill number 5713 by title only, an ordinance vacating certain right-of-way and other interests held in trust by the city which were previously dedicated to the city of Brentwood and are no longer necessary for the purposes for which such interests were dedicated.
Your Honor,
Alderman Kramer?
if I could extend applause to the developer in this case for being creative and following through for an opportunity for us to increase our quality of our housing stock in that area. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Motion, please.
Motion to perfect Bill 5713 as amended into ordinance form.
And second? I'll second that, Your Honor. Motion is made by Alderman Lee, second by Alderman Robertson. Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Kramer.
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Bill number 5713 is now ordinance number 4387.
Thank you. Next item, item 9, accounts against the city. Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor, before you should have and have previously received a copy of the warrant list in the amount of $29,876.33. In behalf of our Ways and Means Committee, I have reviewed and recommended the approval of said warrant list.
And you have a motion?
That is my motion.
And second?
Second.
Are there any questions? All in favor of approving the warrant list as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, reports of committee and department heads. I have nothing further to report. Public Safety Committee. Oh, wait, I do. We needed to I think we talked about at the last meeting, trying to schedule a working session to work, what I'd like to do is set a date for an hour to work on the codification and an hour to work on the personnel manual. And so if we can, people looked at their calendars, Alderwoman Saunders?
We have a lot before us right now between the budget, and we haven't even gone through like each section of the budget yet and the employee manual. But I'm fine making the time, but I would like to suggest 2 hours for the code. I can't imagine that one.
Well, I don't think we're going to do it in one meeting, but I just think, you know, that would be a 2-hour meeting, and I just don't think you get that much accomplished, and that's why I think we need to, you know, force ourselves to sit down and you know, work, and we'll work for an hour on one topic and an hour on the other.
Okay, how will we be addressing the employee manual? Are we just going to go through, like Alderman Kramer, that had been an issue at all the Ways and Means meetings that Alderman Leahy had brought up. Is that what we see doing here now?
I will pass that along to the mayor, Your Honor.
Well,
What is your proposal?
I think what we need to do is finalize any concerns that anybody has. I mean, it's been reviewed by the Ways and Means Committee, but the final decisions are going to be up to the Board of Aldermen. So I think it'd be appropriate to have a working session, resolve any of those issues, and try to get the document completed so that we can get a pass.
Yeah, it seems to me then, in that situation, since that's the clarification, that the major thing that we need to is the organizational structure, and they both feed into each other. It's the new sections in the code and new in the manual. So,
okay.
Your Honor, are you envisioning this in advance on the same evening as a regular meeting or a separate?
No, right now I just want to set one date.
Okay.
You know, and I might suggest next Tuesday evening.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Which evening, sir?
next Tuesday.
The 13th.
Do we have a conflict that already then?
I don't know.
When is the?
that's my board meeting.
Oh, okay. Then how about Thursday, the 15th?
We have a meeting for it. What time are you going to do that?
15th is our public safety.
Public
What time were you
safety.
planning on, Your Honor?
Yeah.
I was hoping to do it probably 6 o'clock so that we would be here from 6 till 8.
Wait, on the 15th?
I don't think we'll be done
Well,
by then.
but that might be a conflict with, you have a meeting?
We have
Well,
public
yes, we have a
safety
public safety
at 4:30.
summit that evening.
All right. Well, then the date, the following Tuesday would be,
How about Skype, Your Honor?
first of all, I'd have to figure out how to do that, but.
State,
Okay.
state statute prevents us from being able to
Right.
do that.
Yeah, so,
Understand.
the following Tuesday would be.
20th?
The
20th.
20th. I didn't have my phone with me.
It's okay.
19th is the
You've got a
budget.
meeting on
19th
the
is-
21st, but not on the 20th. Sounds like it's a date that's open.
Okay. If
The
we
20?
get 20th,
Let's
and if-
run it up the flagpole.
What time is it?
6 o'clock,
6 o'clock.
and we will be done at 8.
Okay.
Here?
Here, yes.
My pen don't. Look at it.
Your Honor, if I may tag on to your request. This evening, before the Board of Aldermen meeting, I passed out a proposal to each of the members of the Board of Aldermen, to the mayor, to the city attorney, and to the Octavia for record keeping. Copies are on top of the voting box right there by the doorway for the public. In conjunction with both looking at the handbook and the budget, I'm making a proposal that realistically, I think the entire board needs to look at and discuss versus having it handled just in a committee aspect. Under statute, the board must approve the budget on the first meeting of Monday, the 3rd of December. If you don't like the budget, it's rather hard to just say fix it, so I'm offering some suggestions that would allow us to change the budget if this board so chooses. And these are some of my recommendations and suggestions that I think would be a good way to springboard what you would like to do in your meeting with both the handbook and the budget, Your Honor, because in order to accomplish what I'm suggesting, you'd have to affect both those documents.
Okay. Well, again, I think you're right. The board, you know, everybody would need a chance to review this.
Yes.
And You have a Ways and Means Committee coming up, so maybe that would be a first place you could take a look at a couple of these items. You know, at least open the discussion at that point.
Thank you, sir.
Alderman Saunders?
Yes, and that Ways and Means, I guess we should wait till we're under there, but that meeting is this week, Wednesday, November 7th at 6:30 p.m. So I had put an email out to the residents that this is the time now to start giving your input as to, you know, what the city wants, because, you know, then a lot of times after the fact, you know, we've already entered into a contract or we've expended the money and we can't go backwards. So I really encourage you to attend that meeting on Wednesday. 6:30. City Hall right here. And it's a working meeting so that, you know, we're going through the budget and determining, you know, priorities. It's good.
Okay. One other item, I would like to remind everybody that this Sunday we will have our Veterans Day celebration in recognition here at City Hall, 2 o'clock. If you can please come and meet some of our residents who have served in the military for our country, and it's usually a very nice celebration, and just come spend some time meeting some of those great residents. We'd appreciate your support. Public safety?
We have a meeting on the 15th at 4:30.
Okay. Public Works Committee?
Your Honor, we have a meeting Thursday to review the survey, 2 of the survey firms, and see how we get through that.
Great. Okay. Director of Planning, anything further? Nothing further. Thank you. Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Your Honor. At the risk of repeating what was previously advertised, we do have a meeting coming up on the 7th, Wednesday evening, and it is important for the residents to know that we do try to go out of our way, both the members and the staff, to have night meetings, and this is one of the night meetings. It's at 6:30 here. Don't have a time limit on that particular meeting. We're going to try to handle things as best we can, but it's an opportunity for you to see our work in progress, so you are invited. Thanks, Your Honor.
Thank you. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator?
We have one item, Your Honor, the Brentwood Square Shopping Center, and Gina Jarvis, our Finance Director, will speak to it.
Good evening, Mayor Kelly, Board of Aldermen. I just want to take a few minutes to communicate some key points. I have them here so I don't mess up the numbers, and give you some information, and then I just want to be here to answer any questions that you have. We would like to have a motion and get this approved so that we can direct the funds appropriately. So let's see. I just don't want anyone to lose sight of the positive message here. I know you have the information in front of you, but the Brentwood Square TIF bonds are going to be paid off roughly 8 years ahead of their schedule. So I think it's good to point out that this is a positive thing, and that we're making a decision that actually is kind of an exciting thing to deal with. The trust indenture for the Brentwood Square TIF was executed such that excess funds in the municipal revenue account could be retained by the city to use for the city's governmental purpose. The fact that we have these funds available and are able to have this discussion is a wonderful thing. The difference between what's in the 2012 budget, which is $287,000 for this item, and the estimated amount we will be receiving of $502,889 is $215,889. And just a statistic, this represents 43% of the fiscal year 2011 ending fund balance. So I guess you've seen our recommendation, and this is kind of the basis for our recommendation, is we just have this great opportunity to add to our reserve levels at a time when we all know that it's a concern. In addition, our portion of the pilot's fund would be another approximate $45,000. It was very timely. On Friday, I attended a GFOA seminar on financial policies, and they went out of their way to remind us that one-time revenue increases such as this are the best way for cities to get to their reserve levels and to really grow their reserves.
Other ways of getting to your reserve really are year-by-year budget savings, year-by-year revenue gains, and things like that that typically are slower to build over time. The 2013 proposed budget document that's being reviewed by Ways and Means projects that our reserve level will be at 22.95% at the end of 2017. However, if we retain this municipal revenue, that percentage jumps up to almost 25%. And if these municipal funds continue to come in at this level for 2013 and 14, we will be very close to 30% at that point. So we're recommending that you declare the balance in the Pilot's Fund as surplus in accordance with the trust indenture so that it can be distributed to the taxing districts, and we are one of those taxing districts. As noted earlier, this will provide approximately $45,000 to fund the general fund reserve. We're also recommending that you direct UMB to disperse the balance of the municipal revenue fund to the city, and this will provide approximately $216,000 to the general fund reserve. We believe the city is better served by replenishing our reserves at this time, and once we reach our reserve goals, then I believe it would be appropriate to discuss other uses for these types of unanticipated revenues. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about this. I've educated myself a lot over the last few months.
Okay, and I will give just a quick history for the people in the audience. It might make it a little bit clearer. When we initiated the redevelopment agreement for Brentwood Square, that was our second major project here in the city of Brentwood. And through negotiations with primarily the school district, what we decided to do there was the agreement states that if we have any excess funds over our projected revenues for the project, instead of rolling those funds back in and paying down the bond sooner, we would pass those through to the taxing districts. So in this instance, in the city of Brentwood is one of those taxing districts. And so, Gene, I guess the first question I would ask is, do you have the number that the school district will receive on this?
I don't have the exact number, but it is over $100,000.
Right. And so, so the pass-through goes to the school district, it goes to the zoo district, it goes to St. Louis County, not library, college district, special school district, health services, all of those other things that are in there. Those taxing districts get a portion of these funds that we're talking about, that total amount. So, and in the past, the city has retained our portion for city use. So anyway, just as a clarification. So that I'll open up if anybody has any questions. Alderman Kramer?
Yes, Your Honor. I want to echo what you just said in a different way. It really doesn't get said, repeated often enough, especially by some of the publications that we read, and that is that the school district does get a really good handshake on a regular basis from the city in regards to this check that they receive, that they ordinarily wouldn't have expected to receive, nor planned on receiving. It's a nice bonus, especially to a school district that is looking for extra funding. We've done this, I can't tell you how many years in the past in a row we have done this, but it is something nice, good, and positive that we can do for our schools, and we look forward to doing a little bit more of it. But this is above and beyond what they ordinarily would be getting, and it's a nice bonus, especially in time for the holidays.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Sanders?
And unfortunately, I have a lot. And this is one issue that I have really investigated, or, researched to the best that I can, but I agree with you, Gina, it is very complicated. And I spoke with our financial advisor, and he scolded me before the meeting because I ask questions over and over when I don't understand something, and he asked me why. And I did tell him, and I need to be honest, that because of things that have happened in the past, my level of trust is not where it should be. And so I do ask the questions to make sure that we're on the right track, and I apologize if I'm slow in understanding. When I got on the board, the first thing that came to us was 356,000 pilots, which we voted to supersink the bonds in November, which we just did, November 1st. And you informed me that those
weren't pilots, right?
That was the municipal revenue fund. there was also pilots involved, but the pilots are, I don't know if.
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Right.
And
I
so-
guess in the trust indenture, it says that the city shall declare them. It doesn't say the city has a option of declaring them as surplus. So the pilots kind of automatically go, but we do a formal motion for that. But those pilots do go back to the county to be redistributed. So
Right.
the municipal revenue fund is the one that we were discussing back in the spring.
So the entire time I was questioning it and referring to it as pilots, I was wrong. I even think I made my motion with the term pilots. So did we super sink the bonds with $356,000, as which I proposed, or did we super sink with now what you're telling me is the pilots?
No, the municipal revenue account, which was at $356,000.
Okay, and so we used all of that. And why
Yes.
were we so late in getting that money?
I wasn't here at the time, but my understanding is that the calculation is done in November of every year. So my understanding is that it was an oversight of not distributing the funds to the city. They normally are, and if you look back, they are done very routinely in November of every year.
So was this because we were having trouble with our TIF accounts? Were they questioning our accounts? That seems a long delay, and the city counting on that money not to realize that here we're getting it in November of 2012, and we didn't get it until March?
No, wait. We got those revenues back in April of 2012, the ones from last year. It was
2011.
11. So it was about 5 months late, but I think it was actually the bank that didn't notify us. Obviously, new city administrator had just started. We didn't have, and so wasn't even aware that would be something that would be coming along. And it wasn't until after the first year that the bank actually did notify us that the funds were there and ready to be distributed. So it was the bank that did notify us.
So that's UMB Bank?
Yes.
The trustee. And I have emails asking when we're going to receive the funds, because this doesn't add up for the information, Jim, maybe you can handle, but I have emails where we're asking when the monies will be received from Sandy Battis. So
But we don't receive them from Sandy, or she doesn't receive the funds from us.
No, you're saying she has the funds, but she's expecting payment from us because we need to make a debt service payment, and we need those funds, so.
That's something
different.
else.
That's not the excess revenue. That's the bond payment that would have been due.
Right.
Okay,
correct.
so we're saying that the trustee didn't notify us, UMB Bank didn't notify us that we had money there.
That is my understanding.
That's
Your
correct.
understanding.
It was an oversight.
Okay. And all of our deals, banks, bonds, COPs, they're all done with UMB Bank, is that correct?
Yes.
The COPs, yes, and the TIFs, yes.
Okay. And is there any reason for that? Do we know why that is? I'm just curious.
I think they're probably due 90% of them or more for all of the municipalities in St. Louis County. They have a special division that handles those types of
Service.
Okay, and then I have a question for Alderman Leahy. Now see, I was under the wrong impression. I had pilots confused with municipal revenue. And you didn't want to move this forward from Ways and Means. You approved the budget that has $287,000 in TIF reimbursements last year, but you didn't want to remove it out of Ways and Means, and you were talking about that this money should be used to supersink or should go to the bonds. So could you please explain, because I'm very confused.
The first action is the city has to declare the money a surplus. By doing so, you allow that money then to be divided out to the taxing districts. The question is, what happens with the rest of the money that is the city's revenue? What are you going to do with that? I would like to see the city's revenue surplus to go back in to pay down the bonds. We are now looking at taking that money and helping to balance it in this year's 2013 proposed budget to keep the budget balanced.
Okay,
So
and
last year,
go
Andy, last year when they budgeted $287,000 of this money to come in and you approved the budget, did you know that was going in there?
When you have the budget vote, you have a statute that says that you have to approve a budget on the first Monday of December. If you do not have an alternative to the budget in front of you, and the budget in front of you is balanced, why would you vote no for that budget?
If you didn't agree with it, you vote no for a lot of things that you
Then
don't
you
just
need to
agree
have a
with.
replacement to at least have an alternative to the negative. And at that time, we had no alternative.
I guess I'm missing the point on what the discussion is. I mean,
Well, I just,
you
I,
know,
no, I try to get educated from my fellow aldermen, and I sometimes get misguided, and I'm just asking questions because at one point, like, you know, Alderman Larry will tell me this needs to pass, but then he votes no. And then, so instance here, he's objecting to it, and he approved the budget, and it's just hard for me to understand. Okay, now the question next that has to go is the 356,000, the pilots that we received. So I was totally wrong. So why are our pilot funds so great this time and they weren't in 2011?
I can't answer it.
I don't have the answer to that.
Well, the pilot right now is only 45,000. The municipal revenues are 200, are
Yes.
the larger amount.
No, the pilot fund is $343,873.
That's the total pilots,
Right.
and our portion of
Portion
that
of it.
is 45,000.
The rest of it goes to the other taxing districts.
But then in 2011, a check in the amount of $7,754.07, which represents the pilots for Kenilworth Tax Increment Finance District, SING. So that's what we approved to go to the, we'll ask the Board of Aldermen for motion to declare the 7,000 as surplus and authorize the city administrator to send the check to St. Louis County for distribution to the various taxing districts, St. Louis County, City of Brentwood, Zoo, MSD, Brentwood School District, Sheltered Workshop, Special School. So why was it only $7,000 in 2011 and
I can get the answer to that, but also the amount of surplus in the municipal revenue fund went from 357,000 to 502,000.
This
So those are the funds that are,
The trustee does
Yeah.
those calculations and forwards them to us. I mean, I don't know if there was an adjustment made or what but, you know.
Sales were better.
Right. I mean, the municipal revenues is based on the sales, right? No doubt. The other pilots is your property taxes.
I think it depends on the performance each year, and the retail establishments in that district did much better last year. Therefore, we were still able to make the TIF payments, and then there were funds left over, so that would account for the difference between year to year. Sometimes they're much less, sometimes they're more. And if you noticed in the fiscal year 13 proposed budget, we're anticipating, given what has happened last year and this year, that we will continue to receive at least $350,000.
Right. And earlier in this year, when we did receive those additional revenues, and then the board, again, didn't know till we got here to the meeting, but then a motion was made to use that to pay down the bonds. And following that, it went and got some additional information. I think that was 325,000, if I'm not mistaken, or was it more than that? But anyway.
the amount that paid down the bonds,
Yeah,
the
fine.
357.
357 total, that's right. So, but once I got the information, because, you know, again, the questions were, to me, you only make 2 bond payments a year. So if we use that to pay down the bonds early, is that going to shorten the time of the bonds for us so that instead of being paid off in November of a year, that they're paid off in April? I'm just using an example. So are we going to save time, or are we going to save, you know, a huge amount of interest? Well, once we got some estimates on that, it wasn't going to speed up the last payment of the bonds. We're still going to go to that same date. But by doing that, we were going to save a little bit in interest. And so my feeling was, again, to be perfectly selfish, was I said, well, go ahead and pay down the bonds. We're still going to, and then we're going to get that money back at the end. Yep. So right now there's a reserve account that we were going to be getting an estimated $500,000 at the end that would come to the city. Now, because we put that money into it, we're saving a little bit of interest, but now we're going to get about $840,000 or so at the end, because that's basically going to be a reserve by the time the end. It's only going to save us interest. It's not taking any time off. So when that TIF is paid off, I looked at it as that's the way it's forcing us to save it, because then that $800,000+ can actually go directly into, we could dedicate that right into reserves, because that can be used for general revenue for the city.
So, Mayor Kelly, you're saying that your recommendation when I made that motion was to supersink the bonds? That was what you agreed with, supersinking?
No, Maureen,
I missed it.
Alderman
I missed
Sanders, no.
something when you
I'm
said to
saying
pay
once
it
I
off
got
for
the
forced
information, I was
reserves.
like, why not? Go ahead and let it go. You already made the motion. It was already done at that point.
Oh, I misunderstood the email. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to bring it back to the board. I totally misunderstood. So I'll look back at the email.
The motion was made and the board voted to do it.
Well, then this sounds like a great way then to continue, and we will have a big reserve. So that's okay. I get it now. That's good
Well,
then. I'm going to.
But again, right now we're looking at next year's budget, and those revenues can be used for that as well. So, so anyway. Okay.
So I would like to recommend that we, as we did in April of 2012, that we authorize the St. Louis County to release the pilot funds to the other taxing authorities, and that we move the discussion of the municipal revenue and pilot portion we're going to receive to Ways and Means to review before we bring it to the board.
It's in the budget, so yeah, you can, right.
Do you see, we'll bring it to Ways and Means, because it started in Ways and Means last time and came forward.
We just want to get the money first. We're going to
Yeah.
take the 500 and divide it as she's stipulated here, and then after we get the money, then we can go to Ways and Means, decide if we want to disperse it differently within our city. Is that
Right.
correct?
Exactly. Right.
Did you want to handle that in two different motions?
Well, we need a motion to disperse the funds, first of all, separately.
Well, correct, point of order, if I may, Your Honor.
Yes.
Ways and Means sent forward a resolution authorizing the disbursement of funds with the permission that the municipal city's portion stays in general operating fund for the 2013 and the 2014 municipal funds, and that we do not have an option to pay down the bonds. That's how the current resolution that the Ways and Means
That is
forwarded to this board.
That is correct.
Now, that's what's on the table, and that's the request. I would like to, because I'm the negative vote from the Ways and Means, I would like to request that the board amend that resolution. Amendment of the resolution is...
Motion, not resolution.
Motion.
Okay.
Yeah. That the board disperse the taxable money, but that the revenue that the city maintains be left out of the budget and go strictly to paying down the bonds in advance. It gains us a larger savings at the very end, which goes then, depending on how this group wishes to put it into the budget at that time. For the motion for what you're doing, all I'm trying to do is get the money into the city dispersed properly. Take the city's revenue, which then throws a curve because the 2013 budget already took that revenue and made it as expenditures. The 3-page document that I have given you all is an alternative. If I take this money out of this revenue stream at this point, then I have to find you at least a way of making the revenue still work so that by December 3rd, we have a balanced budget in front of us. That's what my document authorizes. So at this point, I want to get dispersal of the money, but the revenue to the city of Brentwood get put on hold until this board can decide how to treat it in the budget.
Alderman Sanders.
So then the $287,000 that is budgeted for 2012 has already been authorized via the budget. So we cannot do anything with that 2012. And none of these budget cuts, Alderman Leahy, these budget cuts wouldn't have been acceptable in 2012, so that we aren't forced, our hands are forced now that the 287 cannot go to...
Last year, I did not have the votes to bring this up for discussion. This year, I think I have enough members on the board that will at least entertain my suggestion. That's why I'm bringing it forward.
All right. How about if we have a motion for the disbursement of funds, which we need to do first?
That's right.
And then, and again, I mean, you know, this is an issue that can go back to Ways and Means, and you can discuss it there.
That's right.
And make your recommendation to the board.
There's a check waiting to come our direction.
I'll make the motion for the disbursement of funds from the
The pilots.
pilots for distribution to the taxing districts.
Okay. And second?
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Okay. Discussion? Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, my objection is that I would not have approved the 287 and 287,000 in last year. So I just want you to know that.
It's this year.
Well, this year, but it was approved when the budget process was going on last year.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All in favor of dispersing the pilots to the taxing districts, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Oh, you're opposed?
I'm opposed.
Well, just so you understand, we legally have to do that. We don't have discretion on that. I mean, that is the agreement, that those excess funds will be passed through to the taxing districts.
Correct.
We do it by motion, but we do not really have any discretion to do that.
It's the other funds that we have discretion over.
Okay. All right. Okay. Excise Commissioner, we have one temporary liquor license for Veers Randburger.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, point of order.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there anything else that we need to do to have the remainder of those funds deposited in our account?
Well,
That will happen.
That will happen
Okay.
automatically, right?
Just ask if there's anything else that we need to do.
But the discussion on how you want to disperse them will be another subject.
Gotcha.
I think for the municipal revenue, we'll have to request that UMB hold those funds, because if you determine that you want to take a portion of that to pay
Okay.
down the bonds, then it would stay with them. I think there was a little bit of confusion last year, or in the spring, because we actually pulled the funds down and then we had to reimburse, basically give them back.
Right.
So we would just ask them to hold the municipal revenue funds until a decision's made. So that's what I'll request from Sandy.
Okay. Alderman Sanders?
And Gina and Bola and Mr. Leahy, I owe you an apology as far as not understanding the pilots. I had not understood that correctly since last year, and I don't know that I made my motion correctly either. I'll have to go back and listen to it, but I had the pilots and the municipal revenue commingled, so I do apologize.
Okay. Next item G, Excise Commission, we have a temporary liquor license for Homeline and Kitchens at 2320 Manchester.
The excise commissioner is not here
Okay.
tonight, but we do have a temporary liquor license for a one-day event scheduled for Saturday, November 11th from 6 to 9 p.m., where they will pair a 5-course menu and wine on one night only.
Okay. Library.
Motion to approve, Your
thank
Honor.
you. And second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Library, anything further?
Received the Brentwood Public Library newsletter. Oh, I'm sorry. So received this
From the library.
from the library. So you might check it in. It's something new I haven't seen before. A lot of good stuff on there.
For those who have signed up through their listserv, they are now electronically sending out the Brentwood library newsletter.
Upcoming events and all, so I think that's great. We have a
Great.
meeting next week,
Okay.
Monday.
And Municipal League.
Can I-
Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Sanders.
Can I ask, what portion of the pilots does the library receive, as, you know, since they're a separate taxing district like the school district?
Do you have that breakdown?
I'm looking for it. I have an approximate number.
I would say
On
probably.
the contrary, I do not.
If the school district, I mean, we can figure it out, I mean, we will have to, but the school district's receiving a little bit over 100, you said?
A little over 100,000.
Oh, Gina?
Oh, in our rate, okay.
Yeah.
So then
Right.
we would,
it's all
do a
within our funds.
calculation
Right,
on what
that's
their
right,
section
right.
of that would be.
It's not a
Once
small-
again, the library district, we set the tax rate. I'm going to call the auditor's office and see how we can get it, so, since that's what everyone seems to claim, how we can get it so that, you know, our library district is separate, like Maple Woods and so forth.
Fine, okay. Municipal League, Bola, are we going to host their meeting?
No, we have
Okay.
meetings that night.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Nothing to report on Municipal League. Communications,
No report, Your Honor.
Historical Society, anything?
No report this time.
Any unfinished business?
I would like to say one thing. I've been noticing that, I think anyway, my opinion, that Bola is getting an awful lot of work to do. I think we all, as Alderman, have to be careful how many requests we make and give her plenty of time to do it. I see stacks of stuff on her desk. I get stacks of stuff. I've been an Alderman a long time. I've never seen the kind of paper. And lots of course, is very important. But I say just be careful and give her plenty of time so that the person we've hired in there, I think, does a great job, and we have to do all we can to help accommodate her.
Okay, thank
He's
you.
not alone.
All right. Any new business?
New business,
Thank you.
if I may, Your Honor. In the month of November, the Boy Scouts of America will hold its Scouting for Food program again. This Saturday, the scouts of the area will deliver bags. If you do not get a bag, they'll accept the regular grocery bags and stuff out of from the shopping trip. On the 17th of November, a week from this Saturday, they'll come back around like they have in the past and collect it. In the past, our highest number is about 520 boxes of food out of the Brentwood Firehouse, which is the entire city of Brentwood's contribution. Unfortunately, our numbers have dropped to about 320 boxes. So unfortunately, with the status of the economy and people's working and stuff, we would really love a little extra push of getting some more canned goods out for the needy. The benefit of the program is that everything that is collected across the entire St. Louis City and County area go to feed the 16 food pantries. Used to be that we would be able to fill the pantries for about a 7 to 8 month period. We're now down to only a 4-month period of getting them food. Our goal is to still try to break 2 million cans each year. So that will be coming up both November 10th and November 17th. Just get the bags out on your doorstep or in the sidewalk so that the kids, when they come by, pick it up. If they haven't collected it by 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon, bring it up here to the City Hall Firehouse, and we'll be happy to add it to the contributions. The last Tuesday of the month is the 27th of November. We'll have our Ward 3 meeting at 7 o'clock in the council room. All are invited. Thank you, Your Honor.
Just have a quick question. Were the scouts here to talk about that earlier?
No, the scouts that were here in the audience were working on citizenship and the community merit badge. Their
Okay.
requirement is to attend a city hall meeting and go through the budgetary issues, talk with an elected official, and understand the different forms of government and the different bodies, legislative, judicial, and, God, what's the other one?
Executive.
Executive, yes. Gee, aren't we doing that tomorrow? To work with. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Alderwoman Sanders?
Yeah, and the scouts had emailed Anthony Harper and myself, Alderman Harper, excuse me, and myself, because they're award that they
Okay.
were working on this badge. So I'm really proud, and fortunately for them, it was bedtime, I assume, but it's a
they-
relatively early meeting, 9
They should get
o'clock.
badges for their ability to stay awake during all this. 'Cause
I
they,
get-
they were fighting it pretty hard.
I-
we should get
I'll
badges?
They should. The scouts should get badges. They're fighting it pretty hard.
I
Rephrase
also,
that. We
I
should get that.
also want to announce that my Ward 1 meeting is on Tuesday, November 13th at 6:30 p.m. And then also, I do, I know I question about the library rate and stuff, but I was taken to task for that. And so, again, Gina, you were just saying that it is part of a levy of the city, and it is a confusing topic to me. And, we learn more as I continue to ask questions, and that's just the reason that I do it. So, and I'm resourceful. I try to go to the right police person, but I don't always get it right. So, anyway, just wanted to let you know that. And then I will continue too, as we see, because I am concerned that, the funds are so short next year that we have to use the revenues. And I keep questioning, like the residents, where did this money go? So I will continue and hopefully in the budget process push for a forensic audit. Thank you.
Well, I just want to comment on that. I mean, I've never had any resident ask me where the funds are going with respect to this. I mean, if you go back and look at the prior budgets, those funds were in there. And so just like the estimate and it's an estimate every year when you're producing the budget too. So just like they estimated that how much our sales tax revenues would be, they estimated how much that pass-through would be from year to year based on prior years. So, and again, the agreement which was entered into back in 1997 or 96 when the redevelopment agreement was created for Brentwood Square, that's when all those stipulations were put in place. And so it hasn't been anything that ever has been hidden or not distributed right. If we decide we want to use those funds to pay down the bonds early, I guess that's fine. But again, it was another revenue source over the years that was calculated into the overall budget.
Okay, I'd like to ask John Geppert about that because you approve. You are on the redevelopment corps. You bring these deals forward to us. So the purpose of that with Brentwood Square of giving the surplus to the other taxing districts was because after the promenade and all up in arms, the schools were going to have to wait until the very end of the project before they started recognizing any increase in the improvements. And that was a concession made, and a concession made for the other taxing districts. The concession wasn't put there so that we get money to use how we want to. I mean, we have it interpreted that way, but the intention was to give them a little bit of a boost in the income. Do you know what I mean? To kind of level the playing field was my understanding, but that we would still always strive to pay down bonds first. Am I wrong?
I'm going to defer to the mayor because whereas the redevelopment corporation gets involved in it, some things happen after our general approval of the concept. So sometimes the detail gets worked out after our involvement. Is that a fair way to say?
I mean, the redevelopment agreement was worked out with through multiple meetings between the school district and the city. If the school district had again, I wouldn't say it was concession. I would say it was something that the school district and the city worked on in putting that agreement in place. On the promenade, what we said was we were going to put, just as an example, the city took $300,000 of revenue off the top of that project, and then everything else went to pay back the bonds. So that's one of the reasons that project was able to be paid down sooner. When we got to our second project, after learning, I think what the school district realized was, first of all, we were putting all the revenues into the Brentwood Square anyway already, and how can we see some of the benefit prior to waiting until the TIF is paid off? We said, if, again, as I said earlier, if revenues are ahead of our projected amount, then we will take those revenues and pass those through to the taxing districts, of which one was the city. If the school district still then wanted, as part of that negotiation, for us to use our portion to continue to pay down the bonds, it would have been in the agreement. And so that's not the case, and it was never the intention of the case as far as I'm concerned. And over the years, again, I don't think we actually got to, have to go back and look, but I'm trying to think when Brentwood Square went online, but I don't think, probably the first 5 or 6 years there weren't excess revenues above the, because you have to build up to that point. So, but again, as those revenues started to come in, I can tell you over the years we've had presentations here with the school district coming. Keith Rabenberg, as president of the school board, has been here and accepted the check that we gave to them because this was a good thing that we had excess revenues. And again, we've been very public about that. And, and again, these things all happened basically, 15 years ago when those agreements were put into place. And that was the intent of them.
Well, and the residents were outraged. I mean, they didn't want another assisted project going through if the schools didn't benefit in some way prior to the way the other deal was structured. I mean, we do that, but not all cities do that. Correct, John? I mean,
I think it is true that in the very first project that we did, It was very contentious between the school district and the city. Arrangement was worked out by which there was a sharing process that took place. Am I not correct? And I think the school district has benefited from that sharing process. And they will benefit from the additional tax revenue when the TIFs are paid off. One of the things that I think that people ought to be careful of is that the school district sent out a communication, a flyer this week. In that flyer, they make a comment in the very top article about when these properties are returned to the tax rolls. These properties were never taken off the tax rolls. The only thing that didn't happen was the incremental value was not taxed, but every penny that was taxed previously was still received by the school district. So I believe that when they state return to the tax rolls, it's an incredibly inaccurate statement.
And John,
In
I don't
defense-
mean to, I don't mean to correct you, but they did pay their tax as well. It's just that the tax wanted to pay back the bonds.
Well, no, the
But you were-
developer,
again,
the property
right.
owner paid the tax. The school district didn't benefit, but the school district makes comment about
Taxes are still being
returning
paid,
it
right?
to the tax rolls, and taxes were always paid on it. And with all due respect to the school district, if you remember what that property looked like 20 years ago, you would have had substantially lower tax coming in today on the value of that property. And whether you agree or don't agree, the developers will tell you, you use the economic development tools or we're not coming.
And I know, we've had this conversation many times, and I agree. I know that the base is held back. They receive the revenues of where the property values were when the development occurred. The thing is that, and like Alderman Kramer said, if this didn't happen, the school should be very thankful, but we also don't know what the free market would have done on its own. So they could have been seeing revenue sooner. So it's all a gamble. But I mean, and you need to clarify that, though, okay? But I do agree that verbiage is wrong, and I will talk with David Faulkner.
I would tell you, without getting into, again, a 4-hour discussion on this, the free market, you would have not seen anything happen. You know, I look at, just as an example, the second phase of the boulevard in doing that development. There's money sitting there on the table for a development to happen there from a public assistance standpoint. And even with that assistance, it doesn't work out economically to do it. And in simple terms as well, when you're building or redeveloping in an urban area, and Promenade is the one I know the best, where those property values were probably about $8 a square foot, and you need to assimilate all these pieces of property and get the majority of the people on board in order to make a project work. Developers have to invest in plans and engineering and all these things up front and try to get this project to work financially. And if there isn't any assistance to make that work from a revenue standpoint, and then spending that kind of money here in an urban area, and they can go out to St. Peter's and buy a cornfield for $4 a square foot and build basically whatever they want with less regulations and zoning requirements, where do you think investors are going to make their investments? And I think they're going to take it further out, and it just creates urban sprawl because there isn't the ability to revitalize these areas where property is more expensive on one hand.
Well, and it also creates that donut hole concept, so that when you have closer in developments, you are looking at things deteriorating and people going out to the cornfields,
right, as
the mayor has said, and nothing happening.
Yeah, and crime will increase that too, as far as people wanting to go out to the cornfield. I've always agreed. I mean, my whole opposition to TIFs was I would like us to take a regional approach instead of city-county, and was hoping the money would go to the city. But we've had this conversation too many.
We have.
It's speculation.
Yes, we have.
The tools in the toolbox.
Well,
and I've told you there's some situations like the flooding where it's going to be really difficult to develop, that I do consider the tools more of a necessity, of the flooding along Manchester Road. So it's not that I'm totally opposed, but the new conversations when we were at the sessions in Jefferson City was overuse of the economic tools in the toolbox.
I think debate can certainly take place. I do think that you are accurate in that you don't know what might have happened with the property had we not pulled the tools out of the toolbox. I will tell you, we've had, and I'm not even sure Ellen remembers this, such things as car dealerships that wanted to go into that area on Eagle Road. And I think that what we have there is so far superior from a standpoint of an introduction to our community, from a standpoint of the tax generation to our community, the aesthetics of our community. And I'm going to be on the side of the mayor in this, and that I think if we had not used those tools, you would see a whole different sight when you drove down Highway 40 and looked at Brentwood.
And I do agree, it's a very successful project. I just don't like it, though, when the schools, it's like, you wouldn't have seen any money. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that statement.
Well-
I'm not saying that the project was not successful, but once again, that goes back to 2009, those bonds paid off, and we saw $2 million in revenue. Where's the money?
Well, I talked to
What do you
Superintendent.
mean by where's the money?
I talked to Superintendent
feel like
Faulkner
there should be
the
more
other
than
day, and he was upset because one of the TIFs weren't coming off the rolls this year. And the only thing I can tell you is, again, I think if we hadn't been willing to use those tools, you wouldn't see much revenue coming out of that area at all. I mean, there was a cement plant. I mean, there was terrible land use. It was horrible. And I guess, from my point of view, like it or not, and it can be debated, had we not used them, you wouldn't see what you see today.
And you might see
Thank
the
you.
Interbell come straight through.
Oh, you could have well seen that.
Yes.
You could have well seen that.
Thank you.
St. Louis County tried to
As,
stop.
as long as you brought me to the microphone, I'd like to make one more comment.
Oh, Lord.
No,
There
but
we
I'm not
go.
going to take up an hour. I would like to assure the board that when planning and zoning takes a look at signing packages that are coming to us, that we really do truly look at them closely. And that there is a balancing act between the need of the business to communicate and the aesthetics of the property and the nature of the property. And I think my estimation is most applicants think that we discuss it ad nauseum, but we try to get them to the highest aesthetics that we can get, but we also have to recognize their need to communicate. And that's what's good for the community.
Can I respond? And I just feel bad. I've been to your meetings, and I've seen what you put them through, and I do agree. And a lot of what they bring initially turns out to be beautiful. And I do feel bad. I did explain my no vote, so I was sick. I would have gotten a little more information or driven by, and I didn't. And I just didn't feel I did my homework. so.
There is no criticism meant. I just wanted to
No, I
assure
know,
the
but I
board
did wanna
because we had a
explain
little bit
because
of
the pencils
talk
and the
about,
yarn in the background
You know,
threw
we
me
had a
off.
little bit of talk about, the signage issue. I just wanted to assure you that we almost take as much due diligence on the signage as we even do on something as big as like the Drury.
Thank you.
Alderman Nguyen.
I move we adjourn.
Oh, we got one more. We have one more thing on there, but Alderman Kramer.
Yes, Your Honor. I will be brief with these items. These are some new business items, and notwithstanding our esteemed P&Z Chairman's comments just delivered, I think he will join me, and hopefully everyone else will join me in welcoming the new promenade signage, which was erected recently, replacing the old festival signage, which was in place for quite some time and had numerous problems.
Yeah, that's the
I
one you wish you
understand.
could take back.
And that's the reason I didn't want the PD development.
You live and learn, John,
Yeah.
right?
The new signage is extraordinary and quite an enhancement over the previous. Also wanted to say welcome to our former Maplewood Brentwood patch editor, Ryan Martin, who's in the audience tonight. Welcome back, sir. And announcement, I did contact the tax assessor's office today. November the 5th, which is today through the 9th, is when the real property, real estate tax bills are being sent out in the mail. Look for them in your mail soon, and or your mortgagor will have them as well. So that's it.
Great, thanks.
And I forgot one
Alderman
item.
Saunders.
Just so that we remember to bring forward the 2004 versus 2007 employee manual, that we get that rectified.
There is no 2007.
Well, the 2004 manual revised.
The 2004 was the one approved by ordinance by the board.
But there were revisions made in the 2007 minutes to that manual. So you have to have those revised. They were adopted. I have the minutes here. Do you want me to read them?
The employee handbook that has been presented to the Ways and Means Committee that you all have worked through is the 2004 that we're revising.
But you need the issue, like, I brought this and nobody wanted to.
There
really
is no
look, but-
2007 that
Well,
was ever brought
It
forward.
shows it March 5th. and
It
I
was
have-
never brought forward.
Resolution 942, policy against harassment. Mayor Kelly stated, I mean, this is all the minutes about amending the 2004 manual.
I'm not
And
following
so these
you.
are March 5th, 2007, you have minutes where you made a resolution to amend the employee 2004 manual. And so then March 5th, 2007, you have a revised issue of, I guess, the 2004, but we need to make sure we're working from the revisions.
Well, but we've gone through the manual and pretty much revised the manual that has been under discussion for how many meetings? What differences do those items make with respect to the manual we've been discussing?
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So now we're in agreement, though. The March 5th, 07 is the manual that was in effect, the revisions. It's
think
okay,
the
as long
revision-
as it
The
doesn't
04
matter.
was revised in 07, but
Okay.
it's still the 04 manual.
Okay.
It had amendments
But
to it.
we accepted the revisions, okay.
That's right.
May we adjourn?
Well, we got one more thing. We'll open up the public comment.
Oh,
If anybody has any questions or concerns.
oh, I'm sorry, Miss Karen.
That's all right.
Sorry, Karen. I didn't mean to mess you up. I did.
So I just need to respond to Alderman Toohey's comment. I think it's an unfortunate comment that you chose to highlight highlight something, an issue that you have in an open public forum without providing an opportunity to respond. So I'm going to respond now. I'm very grateful that we do have a second public comment section or session. I am assuming that you're referring to the Ways and Means Committee, where I offered to provide an example to a topic that was under discussion. I understand that in order to run these committee meetings efficiently, you try to limit comment from people sitting out here in these chairs out here to a public comment section. But I have sat through many city meetings where the committee and board of aldermen entertain input pertaining to a particular topic from participants that are sitting out in these seats, and I offered such. After I had offered such, you responded, and I'm not sure I have these words quite right. We can go back to the tapes and listen to them. But at the meeting, you said that you provide oversight and you don't need to listen to a resident. I was not the only one that responded in dismay to the way that comment came across. So I don't know that that comment should be directly only to me. I have hoped that the Board of Aldermen would see as their job to engage the residents and to make the city a better place. It's unfortunate I didn't see it that night. I have always treated people with respect when I'm treated with respect. It's unfortunate. I've had many opportunities in the city where I don't feel like I have been treated with respect. If you want to be treated with respect, I suggest that you also try and treat the residents with respect. Have a couple of follow-up comments to some things that were brought up tonight. I'm assuming that we've put into place, and this is in relation to this contract that was approved tonight, for work that was being done without a contract by the former city administrator. I'm assuming that we've put into place a process to prevent the current and any future city administrators from entering into contracts or into agreements without Board of Aldermen approval. Is that correct?
That's in place. This was the only time that we're aware that it happened, and I'm not sure what the circumstances were around it.
Okay, good. So but we do have a process so that won't happen in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then again, this is another process thing. Do we have a process in place regarding the funds? And I'm still learning about how all these TIFs and pilots and all these things move into the city. So the revenues or pilots or whatever that come to us from UMB Bank. Now, I understand that, based on a comment that was made in tonight's meeting, that UMB Bank does this for a lot of the cities, and they have a whole division, and they're experts in this. But do we have a process in place to make sure that we're going to be getting those funds at the right time? They're not going to be delayed in the future going forward?
Yes.
Okay. And then my last question is in regards to the TIFs. I'm glad that we're able to provide the schools with additional revenue this year. It's much needed from what I'm hearing. My question is, what would the schools be getting if the TIFs were not withheld from the schools? So I know they're going to get $100,000, but what would they be getting if they were not withheld? And I enjoyed hearing the debate tonight, not the debate, but discussion regarding TIFs, whether we should do TIFs, whether development would happen without them. I do think that it would be nice if we had an opportunity as a community to comment on that, because not everyone agrees with the city's position on this in the past. I recently attended a redevelopment meeting where they nominated the board for the next year, and it's the same people. I'm not sure where those discussions happen, but I would encourage the city to consider opening that up to a broader group, because not everyone agrees with the way the city has structured all these TIFs and TDDs. Thank you.
Denise Sebbing at Porter, and again, I agree with Karen. I'm glad we have this opportunity for the second public hearing, because first of all, when I clarified where that house was, I had no idea that was your mother's house. The gentleman that I was speaking to after he spoke at the last Aldermanic meeting, I said, "Are you talking about the house at?" And he said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "I know." His words, he described it as a jungle and overgrown. Obviously, that hit a hot spot with you. You became very defensive, and I understand why. That was your mother's home. But this, again, points out the reason that codes need to be enforced, so citizens aren't going against citizens. The second comment that I would ask is that while I mentioned about the tree stumps, I'd like to know if and or when those tree stumps are going to be removed. That is on a commercial property, I believe. The radio station, that's the same owner that owns that corner at the corner of Brentwood and Hanley. I think that's the same Truman Bank. I think they own that radio station too, if I'm not, that radio tower right there. I think those stumps that were sitting there are their property. There's also like 7 or 8 dead evergreen bushes on that property. Originally, they put a lot of trees there to kind of hide the tower and everything, and it's just not being maintained. And I don't know if it's because the gentleman's gone bankrupt or whatever, but I'd like to know when those tree stumps are going to be removed, because literally when you come up, you see 7 tree stumps within maybe 25, 30 feet of the dead trees were removed. I know we removed dead tree stumps. I saw Public Works removing them from the police station, the corner of the police station a couple of weeks ago. So I'd like to know when they're going to be removed and if the owner is going to be asked to put some other trees in there. Thank you.
With respect to the stumps, if they're city...
They are?
Right.
She's correct, they're on commercial property.
But did we take down the trees? Yeah. I mean, again, if a property owner, I don't know that we have a requirement that people take stumps out. I mean, if people can cut down a tree, and now if it's a city tree and city stump, we usually rent a stump grinder and do a bunch of them at one time. That's why I was asking.
That's correct.
Ellen, do you know?
I don't believe we took the trees down. I think we had a
Yeah.
code enforcement requesting them to address the
The
problem.
dead trees.
Right.
Right, and that is part of the screening, and they will be required to replace those. And also any dead plants. We had a lot of, particularly evergreens that died because of the drought and the extreme hot weather. But we have followed up, and we will continue to on this property, because that screening is really critical at that particular location. So, and I'll include an update on the status of that in the report that I send out at the end of the week to the board. Thank you.
May I get an update on that?
Sure. And I will comment one more time on my family's former neighbor. And again, I think you got up here and made a comment that he said that, but he said that to you. He didn't say that to the board here. I would not be surprised also that he mentioned to you that was what I'm just saying, because you can go and look at his backyard, and along his back fence, he's got just as many bushes as my mom had around her yard. So again, there weren't any code violations there. The yard was kept up. So, but were there big bushes and was it a little bit overgrown? Yeah, but a lot of houses have honeysuckle bushes and those kinds of things bordering their fences.
Yep.
And again, the comment you made was that he made that in this public session. At least that's the way I took it, and I knew that he didn't. So, okay. Any?
Julie would like this.
Mr. Tui, I just wanted to comment about that Ways and Means Committee was there also, and I refrained. I thought about saying that in my original comments here tonight about how you treated Karen. I was the one that said, ooh, you lashed out at her. And I thought that was very disrespectful and inappropriate, and I'm the one that said, ooh, it wasn't her.
A motion to adjourn?
So moved, Your Honor.
And second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we're adjourned.